Hello everybody, my name is Gray. Welcome to 8-Bit Writers. This is just going to be a writing channel, not just advice, but probably vlogs and some other stuff. And yeah, we're just gonna get right into it. If you want to know more about DID, I'm going to be putting a little bit of information in the description, just enough for you to watch the video without being confused, but if you don't care, that's totally fine. Let's get into the advice. So these are my 8 basics to creating complex characters. So first of all, we want to use relevant contradictions. And now the relevant part is very important because you don't want to be saying something you're not trying to say, essentially. So a good example of how to use a relevant contradiction is by saying a character is blank until blank. For example, in my story, The Badlands, Evelyn is harsh until Eloise is around, or Oscar is scared until his friends are in danger. So you can kind of understand why those things might be relevant. For Evelyn, it's about their character and their arc, which that's fine if you didn't know. And for Oscar, it says what he cares about. Getting right into that, let's talk about what changed. Why is this rule suddenly being broken? For example, Evelyn will do things like maybe watch their mouth more or just be gentler in general because they don't want to scare their daughter. Whereas Oscar will put his current fears aside because the fear of losing his friends is worse. So this should tell you something about your character, anything from their beliefs to what or who they care about, anything relevant. My second tip is flaws and strengths. I know you've heard this one before, but hear me out. They should go hand in hand and largely be unable to be separated. Something that I like doing is making their biggest strength also their biggest flaw. Pretty much the same thing. Like someone who is empathetic to a point that is a detriment to themselves and they're falling apart all the time. Or maybe they're very hardworking, but they're constantly burnt out because of that. Those things are not necessarily bad, but they're clearly not doing them any favors. At least not all the time. So their flaws and their strengths should be also relevant to the plot and the message that you are trying to say. My third tip is about motivations. Keep your character's biggest motivation somewhere visible while outlining or drafting, depending on whichever one. You know, if you're an outliner, I would do it while outlining. If you don't outline, do it while drafting. Now, this doesn't need to go into every single decision that is made by this character. Some people just act without thinking sometimes. Actually, everyone acts without thinking sometimes. But it is a good guideline. I wouldn't have Oscar do something cowardly that hurts his friends too many times, maybe once or twice, but like I said, you want to make sure that your content is supporting what your thesis is. My fourth tip is to interweave your characters with the world. Your characters are a product of their environment. What made them this way? For example, Evelyn is harsh and desensitized to cruelty because they lived out in the Badlands, a very dangerous post-apocalyptia for their entire life, before they ever found Pickett. Eloise is good at communicating effectively because Evelyn is so blunt and honest who raised her, and Eloise is good at saying things with poise because the people in Pickett are particular and can blow up over like anything. So, that being said, Eloise is good at saying what she needs to say without hurting people in a way that they will hear her most of the time because she's not like God or anything. Number 5, some of y'all are gonna laugh at me and I don't care. Vibes and aesthetic. This part is very important and you can call it atmosphere if you're too embarrassed to say vibes. This doesn't need to be exactly cottagecore, grunge, pink, I don't know. It can be as simple as a song lyric they embody or an energy, anything that you connect with. The atmosphere around Evelyn is that they are sharp, clever, and protective. They remind me of a very tart homemade lemonade. Oscar is the sugar that goes into it, and Eloise is the glass pitcher. See, they all fit into place. They have a chemistry together. Not just in the content, but in a first glance even. And if your characters don't have that chemistry, that doesn't have to be a bad thing. It needs to be intentional is the thing. You can make this as concrete or as abstract as it makes sense to you. Number 6, vocabulary, voice, and diction. How do they speak? What words would they use? For example, my system partner has an alter who uses the word conniption, and another alter teases him for it. There are people who have simpler or more complex or even just more specific vocabulary, people who speak in dialects or accents, not that you shouldn't be respectful and conscious when writing those things, and there are people who don't speak at all. You don't need a wildly different voice for every character, though. Little similarities paired with a few obvious distinctions will make the most realistic characters, and characters that talk the most different from each other should have a reason for this. Usually they grew up in very different environments, whether it's a cultural thing or just their home life. You know, one character might be very family oriented because they grew up with very good parents and maybe siblings or just family that really loved them and made that known. And another character doesn't get it and is constantly saying things that are in line with, you know, family doesn't really matter and, you know, stuff like that. And it's all about how they were brought up and their recent experiences as well. Number 7 is strong opinions. This can be as simple as blue is the best color or that alien species should totally work for us because I said so. Their opinions reflect a couple of things: what they do and do not believe in, what they're afraid of, and what has the biggest influences on them. This is also a great time for contradictions to come in. Don't be afraid to confront the character. Ask them why they think this way, and then watch them fumble, because that will tell you a lot about the things they are too scared to know about themselves, about the things they can admit and are ready to tackle. I would even write a letter to your character, like maybe as a position of authority or something that would get them to talk, and then respond in your character's voice and talk. And, you know, if you don't have anything to say, that could be saying something in of itself. My final piece of advice is simply fun stuff. Do what you love. I make playlists. Stop it, Salem. My cat is rubbing on the fucking mic stand. Yeah, so I make playlists. Evelyn's top songs are probably, these I just picked like right before I started recording, but Evelyn's top songs are Run Boy Run by Woodkid, Choke by I Don't Know How But They Found Me, and Black Sheep by Poor Man's Poison. Yeah. So find something you really connect with. For me, it's obviously music, and figure out how it can inspire you and help you flesh out a character. So yeah, that's my video. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Check out my social medias below. Please like, comment, subscribe. Who cares? Love you. Goodbye.